Welcome to GydeBites. I'm Prasanna, your host. Best retail experiences, they don't feel like AI or any other technology as such. They simply feel effortless. You just find right product faster. The recommendations make more sense and every interaction feels like more relevant than the last one. But what does it take to deliver this kind of experience and where AI is creating the impact across customer journey when it comes to retail? To answer these questions and more, I'm joined today by Kuntal Malia. She is a Chief Data and Insights Officer at Metro Brands Limited. With over 25 years of experience, Kuntal has led AI and data initiatives across startups, large enterprises, and more. Her work mostly focuses on customer insights, merchandising, demand forecasting, and developing personalized retail experiences. Kuntal, it's pleasure to have you here. I'm so glad.
Thank you for having me, Prasanna. 25 years suddenly makes me feel very old, but I think luckily the field is so exciting. It keeps me young at heart and on my toes. So glad to share what I know and always a learning experience for me as well.
All right. So, Kuntal, let's get going immediately. What does personalization mean in modern retail?
Personalization, as you kind of indicated, for a very long time has meant from the user side as well as the retailer side, what is the product that you should get next? It's a recommendation as we think about it, right? So whether it's on Amazon or whether it's at Myntra, wherever you are, you're seeing like what product is recommended. We're moving now towards a point where it's more about next best action, right? What is the right thing for me to do with this customer at this point in time, given that we're building towards a relationship? We are in a journey. We're not a transaction. So maybe the right answer is that, yes, I should show you this product. But maybe the right answer is also that I should just tell you how to take care of what you have.
Yeah.
I don't look at every single interaction as a selling point. So I think that's one big shift that's happening in the retail space, and AI enables that aspect, right? The other thing that's happening is personalization of the kind that we're talking about used to be mostly in the domain of online, has the ability to recognize you, has the ability to operate accordingly. And if you, let's say, had this kind of personalization at the store level, it was often by chance and not necessarily design that you could enforce, because there's a human variable that is involved, right? Now we're at a stage where this intentionality of personalization can come in at different touch points of the customer in retail. And I think that's what makes things very exciting. We're able to kind of move beyond just the online experience and see, okay, how do you truly build a relationship with the customer?
Makes sense. And it would be really great if retail stores or brands, online brands, can just tell me, okay, this is how you take care of your MacBook Pro, or this is how you take care of your iPhones and furniture that you have bought from us last month and so on. That would be a really great way to engage with the customers and also provide the personalization so that it really helps customers to use the products better.
And so, I mean, if you think about it, right? If you think about your own experience as a customer, your brand affinity increases when there is a moment that happens, let's say at the store, or maybe it could be at even an online scenario where there is something which has gone over and above the product. And that's when you say, okay, you know what? I'm going to come back to the store. Right? I'm going to interact. So it's whether the store associate has been helpful in terms of how he or she has gone about everything, whether maybe a return that you wanted was processed very smoothly. That's when you'll say, okay, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and give this brand my business or this retailer my business. So it's the others which kind of come into place.
Sure. And you mentioned a little bit about AI, but how AI actually driving this personalization? Can we just double click on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think some of the things that have led to personalization have existed for a while. So let's say your collaborative filtering, your predictive analytics, your segmentation, your ability to understand who's going to churn, etc. All of that has been there for a while.
Yeah, all the machine learning and statistics part of it. Yes.
All that has been there for a while, right? So we've had the ability for a while to actually create segments of one. And this is a term that has been going around for a very long time. The problem is there's been no way to go ahead and actualize at a segment of one. I I cannot like actually go ahead and productionize content, messaging, what should be sent to who, when, how. Like I said, if the decision point is, should I send you, Prasanna, a message about a product, or should I send you a message about taking care of your product, your
Yeah.
previous purchase? That's a decision that has to happen. Now, if you're operating with 100 customers, maybe you can go ahead and do it. If you're operating with millions, how do you do this? And there are a couple of things that have happened now which allow us to do this, right? And I'm talking, let's say, just at the communication front. Keep
Hmm.
things simple. You have the segments, you have the predictive behavior, all of that has kind of come in to understand who can get what, when, how with your, and along with your recommendations. You now have the ability through Gen AI to go ahead and deliver that kind of, to create, sorry, not deliver, to create that kind of content at
Yeah.
scale.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
so you can basically market to one at scale. You have agents that can help you figure out who should get what when, and they are kind of going through that decisioning intelligence, right?
Mm.
So then you kind of take a look at it and say, okay, we also have the ability now to create this kind of personalization. If you call somebody at a, with a voice agent or with chats that happen. So the amount of personalization now that is possible due to the availability of LLM and Gen AI has actually gone up quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And Kuntal, I think we have also reached a point where people are starting to gauge, okay, we have deployed these use cases using AI. What is the benefit of it, or what is the impact? So why, how can you double click on this, where you have implemented AI in personalization and this is the impact that it has created for the users?
So one of the things, and I can talk about this more from a style look experience, because that is where we actually went into hyper personalization at a recommendation level.
Mhm.
We implemented several models within each other.
Mhm.
So where I would say we were not necessarily benefiting the user directly, we were benefiting the stylist. So what we had done at Style Nook was we wanted to go ahead and democratize styling. Now, styling it becomes pretty expensive because not only are you trying to figure out what the user will like, but as a stylist, you're also trying to take the user to a place that she on her own may not have figured out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I go ahead and give you something that you know and you think that, okay, I mean, I would have bought this on my own, it's kind of good to know that, okay, you've nailed my taste, but you've not really exposed me to anything different. So it's
Yeah.
a bit of a tricky scenario, and at the same time, you can't go too far out. Now, which is where if you have trained stylists, it is an expensive proposition for an end user. And what we did was we actually created models that would allow a certain level of curation to happen through the machines itself, right?
Mhm.
Because we had some user information that we're asking
Mhm.
for, and as a result, when the stylist came in, instead of looking at thousands and thousands of products for a particular user, she was looking at a curated set of 100 items for a specific user. And then she would go ahead and select what it is. So without any interaction or conversations with the users, she was able to go ahead and identify picks. We were able to go ahead and offer this service of a stylist to customers virtually, and then as a result, the fee is not high, and the results were actually pretty amazing. Our conversion rates and our return rates were radically different and better than the industry. So as a result of using a model as well as a human stylist, we were able to develop hyper personalization. In fact, we used to say very proudly that no two boxes or no two orders set would be the same, because there's that level
Wow.
of uniqueness in all of us.
Wow. Wow. That's such a unique to how you can create realization and using AI. Right? It's crazy what all we can do. Kuntal, let's just step back a little and discuss about challenges, right? Because organizations are at various level of journey
Yeah.
themselves. What do you think are typical challenges of going through the AI driven personalization?
Actually, multiple, right? So, as a consumer, I want more personalized experiences, as you said.
Right.
That also requires that I am willing to give data.
Yeah.
And that is what we also call the paradox of personalization, right? I will get a little creeped out, or I will get nervous about having data shared. At the same time, I'm expecting a personalized service. So this is a dichotomy that, retailers have to kind of tread. Aside from that, the regulatory and the legal scenarios around this are also ramping up consistently everywhere. Right. So that's something that they have to be aware of. Now, one of the things that often comes up is that customers will say, I wish I was recognized when I walk into a store that I go very often. And is it possible technology wise? Yes, it is. Yeah, it is possible. However, there are regulations also that have to kind of be thought through and you have to kind of go through. We are in a scenario today where there are companies out there that are able to record the conversations at the POS front. That means your customer conversations, your customer insights can get bubbled all the way up. Now you actually have a sense of what customers are saying, which is critical for retailers. I would say for anybody who's serving customers. But that has other implications of, what it means for the store, what it means for the store employees. So there's all this that, brands and retailers have to think through, right? The other thing that kind of comes up is hallucination. As you go ahead and deploy more Gen AI into different products, you have to be careful about what could be said, where the LLM may go ahead and make up its own stuff. And that's a pretty big risk from a customer perspective. And, brands and retailers, that's why they kind of move around all of this a bit slowly. And there are guardrails that you can put in, but it's still always a area of concern as such for someone. And I think the last one, which is a risk for retailers, is because it becomes so easy to produce anything, you run the risk also of actually producing too much in a meaningless manner and possibly coming across as a little soulless, right? At the end of the day, a brand is supposed to have a connect. A retailer is supposed to have a connect. And my sense is also that somewhere down the line, not just from a retail perspective, but from a consumer perspective, as we get more and more entrenched with AI or your chat GPT, your Claude, etc. A lot of people are having full-fledged conversations, relationships with these tools. You will also see the pendulum shift to the need for something more human. The need for something more real is going to come in. So I think that also becomes an area that brands have to be careful about, because just because they can doesn't mean that they should.
Sure. Yeah, no, I totally get it. I mean, as a technology company, we also are going through the same thing. Building anything is so easy today. But that means building wrong things is also easy. Yeah. So Kuntal, the last one for today is, where do you think personalization is headed next? So maybe we cannot extrapolate things these days for 5 years, but maybe let's say next 12 months or 18 months, where do you think things are?
I think, even in 5 years, I do feel we're moving towards an experience of one, regardless of which channel, So I think you're seeing that aspect coming in online very quickly. There are some sites out there who are dynamically stitched together the experience based on everything that they understand about you the moment you land, right? So you and I will never see the same page. Yeah, and it's extremely tailored towards who you are. I think we will also be going in that direction for other channels. So when you are offline, it is actually an experience that is personalized to you. And then also the whole dynamic element of you being online, you being offline. I think the one area that most retailers have to look at very strongly today, and again, some have already done it, is moving from being a multi-channel retailer to an omni-channel retailer, right? If a lot of my discovery, a lot of my, thought process, research, etc. is happening online, when I'm walking into the store, I am a high intent customer. So what is the role of the store at that point? What happens over there? And recognizing that journey becomes important. Or let's say if I discover a brand at an offline, what does it mean if I go ahead and transition into an online scenario? So this journey aspect, and it's not just AI. I think this journey aspect is something that retailers have to start recognizing and understanding, that the customer lives in multiple spots at different points in time. Just because I'm buying online all the time doesn't mean that I'm going to buy online forever. I might do an offline purchase.
Yeah. No, I totally relate to this, because a lot of times what happens is I do some research online and then I go in a store and say that, okay, I know what I want to buy. These are the two options. And now I will choose, because I can test it, I can try it out, test it out, and so on. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that journey of yours has to be recognized, right? And
No.
I think that's a big piece that we're going to see happening more and more. It's like it's what I call the shift from multi-channel to omni-channel.
That's, you explained it really well, super clear. So, Kuntal, let's move on to the next segment. We always ask our guests to leave one piece of practical advice for our listeners. What would you like to share with?
So I think often AI can come across as overwhelming for a lot of companies or for even individuals. And I think sometimes it's best if I don't know who might be thinking about it, but often it may be easier to think about, let's say, a personal small problem that you want to solve. Yeah. And play around with Claude or ChatGPT to try and solve that problem. It's low stakes. It has nothing to do with anything to do with work, but it is something where it matters to you and it gives you the ability to understand what these tools are capable of. Because often what I see is people themselves are trying to understand what the capabilities are. Right. And that then tells you how you can apply it in other places. And one of the best ways to do this is through solving maybe something personal that works for you. I know a product manager who basically built out a very sophisticated meal planning app, right? Because that was her problem. And it was something that, she decided to go and tackle and say, okay, I have all these like different considerations and constraints. And can I have a meal planning app and a grocery list built out for me? And then that automatically also gave her exposure to what is possible and started feeding into what she could do at work as well.
No, and absolutely. I mean, this is, we are seeing this everywhere whenever we talk to our customers, prospects, right? That there is so much noise, so much you can read on social media about AI. And it's really very difficult to separate the hype from what is actually possible. So, and you're absolutely right. The only recommendation that we have when we are doing these kind of sessions with our customers, we just tell them that create a small sort of team and just go and try these things out. That's the best way you can learn. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think sometimes what happens is in a company, there are often a lot more things to be figured out, right? But there are certain hurdles that you have to kind of go through, which is valid because, it's a company, it's not one person. Which is why I think that, okay, if there's something that you can build even solo for a company, and it could be for the company or it could be personal. But if you can build it, you can kind of understand what is doable and what you can kind of do with this. And it's actually very liberating. Like I know several people who have gone ahead and built a concept and they've created artifacts and they've created product demos. And it's something that they've just done solo. So they're not depending on anybody. They're not depending on any process, any permissions. They're just going all out, building it, and then they're showcasing it. And then that's it.
Yeah. No, I think it sort of helps everyone to cut through the noise and just do things. If it works. If it doesn't work, there is always a next idea or next concept that you can work on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Kuntal, before we wrap up, there is a short rapid fire round. Just say the first word that comes to your mind. Are you ready? Okay, so here we go. One customer signal retailers should never ignore.
Ask that doesn't get fulfilled repeatedly.
Okay. One experience that should always be personalized.
Communication.
Okay. One AI use case every retailer should prioritize right now.
Demand forecasting.
Okay. One personalization mistake that retailers should totally avoid.
How you deploy this personalization.
Okay. And one trend retailers should keep an eye on.
Digital twins for stores.
Wow. That would be great. Great answers, Kuntal. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and perspectives with us today.
Thanks so much. It was great.
Okay. And to everyone who is listening, if you enjoy this conversation, share it with your colleagues and someone with your network who is exploring AI in retail. And I will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.